Originating in Puerto Rico and parts of Central and South America are accounts from farmers who've documented awakening in the mornings to find their beloved livestock, most commonly their goats, dead and mysteriously entirely drained of blood. Disturbingly, over the years, reports of this chilling phenomenon would sprout up across the globe, and before long, the creature suspected to be responsible for these ghastly acts would earn a name and an associated place amongst some of the world's most notable cryptids and urban legends. Are you ready to explore the history and intrigue surrounding the elusive Chupacabra? The Chupacabra, which translates directly to goat sucker, is a purported cryptid or mythical creature that, by most accounts, is described as reptilian in its physiology, with greenish-gray scales and sharp spines or quills down its back that stands at around 3 to 4 feet in height, and by some depictions that hops similarly to a kangaroo. Other stories paint the Chupacabra as dog-like, though mostly hairless, with a more defined spinal ridge, unusually deep eye sockets, intimidating fangs, and razor-sharp claws. Additional traits often shared between this legend's variants include a long snake-like tongue, a sulfuric stench, and glowing red eyes. Unlike a good majority of Earth-based predators, with the exception of species such as the mosquito, the leech, the bedbug, the oxpecker, the vampire bat, the vampire finch, and several others, the Chupacabra is rumored to hunger for the blood, and more rarely, even the organs of its prey, which it's said to reap with either fangs or mosquito-like straws that always leave either 2 puncture marks or 3 in the shape of a downward-facing triangle on its victims' corpses. The history of the Chupacabra stretches back to the 1970s, when in 1975, tales of a series of attacks on local livestock within the small community of Mocha, Puerto Rico hit international news, and were at first attributed to El Vampiro de Mocha, or the Vampire of Mocha, and later to rituals of a satanic cult. Disturbingly, in all such attacks, it was claimed associated animals' bodies were found completely drained of blood, and with small circular incisions or puncture marks. The first attack that was officially tied to the Chupacabra by name occurred in March of 1995, when a Puerto Rican farm documented discovering 8 of their sheep dead in one morning, each with 3 puncture marks across their chests and completely drained of blood. And in August of the same year, Puerto Rican citizen Madeline Tolentino would report a close encounter with the ravenous monster thought responsible in the town of Canavana, which alone had documented around 150 farm animals and pets missing or discovered drained of blood around the same time. The moniker Chupacabra would be coined by Puerto Rican comedian Silverio Perez shortly after several major incidents were picked up in the press, and following this informal classification, reports of encounters with this goat sucker would begin to surface across the whole of the Americas, first throughout South American countries, and later in the USA and in parts of Canada. Perhaps most shocking, through the early 2000s, a number of Texas residents would photograph and even collect and preserve bodies matching the Chupacabra's description, causing huge media ripples. However, these bodies would eventually be studied and DNA screened, and all tests would conclude they were nothing more than dogs and coyotes afflicted with mange. From October to December of 2018, a slew of reports entailing suspicious animal deaths in Manipur, India surfaced after a number of domestic pets and poultry were found seemingly drained of blood. However, forensic experts would later conclude these attacks were nothing more than the work of a pack of vicious street dogs. Most recently, in October of 2019, and rather perturbingly, a video recorded in the Saburuquillo sector of Lares, Puerto Rico, details the results of a purported Chupacabra attack on local chickens. While some theorize the Chupacabra is a form of demonic hybrid or an alien creature left behind by a visiting civilization long ago, modern science has attempted to shed some light on the matter. Following extensive studies, leading biologists and wildlife management officials have since concluded that this mysterious monster is likely nothing more than an urban legend. In their research, it was found that all recent purported encounters with the Chupacabra were essentially uncorroborated reports, lacking any form of solid evidence, that often involved mind-altering substances, and the tracking of leads tied to several ongoing cases would yield nothing more than further dog, coyote, and hybrid corpses, all afflicted with, you guessed it, mange. Incidentally, mange-afflicted animals experience hair loss and tend to favor easier prey, such as house pets or livestock, further solidifying current theories and findings. Additionally, following a 5-year investigation documented in his 2011 publication, Tracking the Chupacabra, Benjamin Radford confirmed the original description issued by Madeline Tolentino in August of 1995 was, in fact, a nearly identical ripoff of the creature's sill from the 1995 science fiction horror classic, Species, which, ironically, Tolentino had viewed earlier the same year. Driving a final metaphorical stake into these early claims is the fact that a necropsy was never performed on any of the livestock purportedly killed by the beast, and all necropsies performed since on modern suspected victims have yielded the animal's blood totally intact. On a fairly dark side note, alternate suspicions surrounding earlier encounters have pointed to confusion caused by a troop of rhesus monkeys that were utilized in blood experiments at a lab in Puerto Rico, which escaped around the same time reports of slaughtered livestock began surfacing, and it's now suspected a number of animals whose deaths were initially attributed to the goatsucker actually likely just had the misfortune of running into these little savages. Despite mounting evidence against its very existence, the Chupacabra remains a prominent bedtime story and has made continued appearances as a pop culture icon, including in the legendary television series The X-Files, in South Park, in Grimm, and even as a card called Ravenous Chupacabra in the Rivals of Ixalan set released for Magic the Gathering in 2018. Additionally, reports of encounters with the Chupacabra or of purported Chupacabra attacks on livestock are on the rise globally, spanning from port towns in Maine to far eastern Russia and beyond, begging the question, might there be a sliver of truth behind this fearsome fable? Thanks for joining us in exploring the roots of the dreaded Chupacabra. If you enjoyed our histories and scary stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn notifications on, throw us a like, and, most importantly, share us with anyone you feel deserves a good scare. Good night.